Doctors, what's the worst case of Google said I have you've ever seen? A 42-year-old warehouse manager strutted into my clinic carrying a thick 3-ring binder stuffed with printed Instagram posts and highlighted Reddit threads. His referral note from his primary doctor was crystal clear. Suspicious lymph nodes, unexplained 20-pound weight loss over 2 months, possible lymphoma. The guy needed a biopsy immediately. Instead, Trevor slammed his binder on my desk and announced he'd already diagnosed himself with toxic lymph stagnation. He'd learned about it from some wellness coach on Instagram who charged people $500 for juice cleanses. Trevor was absolutely convinced that drinking an entire stalk of celery juice every morning was already flushing the cancer out of his system. When I gently explained we needed to do a PET scan and tissue biopsy to determine what was actually wrong, he cut me off mid-sentence. He said radiation would wake up the disease and make it spread faster. He'd read that on some blog called Natural Healing Warriors or something equally ridiculous. Then he reached into his backpack and pulled out a mason jar. I thought it was more celery juice. Nope, it was a stool sample he'd collected at home. He asked me to test it for spiritual parasites because his Instagram guru said all cancer starts in the gut with negative energy blockages. I suggested we at least run basic blood work to establish baseline numbers. Trevor shook his head and told me he'd already done his own testing with a kit he bought on Amazon for $30. According to his results, he had no bad energy markers in his system, so he was healing perfectly. The guy argued with me for 45 minutes straight. Every time I tried to explain why proper medical testing was crucial, he'd flip through his binder and quote some random blog post about how doctors just want to poison people with chemotherapy for profit. He kept saying mainstream medicine killed his aunt, even though she'd died at 89 from natural causes. Trevor left my office that day promising to prove me wrong. He said he'd be back in a month, completely cured, just to show me how powerful natural healing could be. I documented everything in his chart and sent a detailed note to his primary doctor expressing my serious concerns. 3 weeks later, Trevor's girlfriend called our office in tears. She'd been begging him to get a second opinion because he was getting worse fast. His lymph nodes were visibly swollen now, he'd lost another 10 pounds, and he could barely walk upstairs without getting winded. She'd finally convinced him to come back, but only because she threatened to leave him if he didn't. Trevor showed up looking like a skeleton. His clothes hung off his frame, his skin had a grayish tint, and those lymph nodes in his neck looked like golf balls under his skin. But he was still carrying that stupid binder, still insisting his celery juice protocol was working, and he just needed to trust the process. He never made it to my office that day. Trevor collapsed in our waiting room while checking in at the front desk. His girlfriend started screaming for help as he hit the floor, unconscious and barely breathing. We rushed him straight to emergency surgery. The mass pressing against his spinal cord was so large it was cutting off nerve signals to his legs. The biopsy results came back 2 days later. Stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It had already spread to his liver, bones, and brain. If Trevor had listened to me during that first visit, if he'd gotten the biopsy when his cancer was still treatable, he might have had a real chance. Instead, he spent 2 months drinking celery juice while cancer destroyed his body from the inside. Trevor died 6 weeks later. His girlfriend told me he spent his final days regretting every single Instagram post he'd ever believed.